That's waiting for you to start. You started. Okay, so do you know what I'm doing?
Something with lemons.
Well, it's not actually a lemon thing. I'm going to actually do my orange and lemon saucy pud tomorrow for your delectazione, sir. But this is just a really simple pudding which I've been doing for a very long time, and I just thought it's something so comforting and delicious, and it would just be lovely after a little bit of a walk today. You know, come back, have a bit of lunch or maybe supper, I don't know, whatever time we get out the door. We're a bit late this morning. Afternoon even. Yeah, 1 o'clock. So I just thought it was a nice little pud, and I've been doing it for years, and it's a very famous pudding. It's called Eve's pudding.
Who was Eve?
Eve, Adam and Eve, apple. That's what it's named after. But it's kind of a 19th century pudding when it started to have cake on top of it. Prior to that, it would have probably just been sort of suet and breadcrumbs put on top of the apple and baked in the oven with a little bit of sweetener, maybe some honey or something. But around the time of the Victorians, they had baking powder. They developed baking powder, so you could get these lighter cake mixes, hence Victoria sponge. Prior to that, cakes were yeast risen. Okay, so they're much heavier. So the baking powder coming along just made things a bit lighter and fluffy. So Eve's pudding is that basically, but I'm doing it slightly different in the fact I'm doing a lemon sponge on top. Normally it's just a plain vanilla sponge with some pureed apple underneath, maybe some sultanas if you want to. But I made this apple puree the other day because you said, I've got nothing to put on my cereal. I've got nothing. I'm a poor little lamb and I have nothing. So I had 2 apples and I stewed them. And how often have you had that in your cereal?
At least a couple of times.
Once.
No, twice.
Once. I had it once, you had it once. So I've got some left, I'm not wasting it. It's lovely apple puree. So I thought I'd make Eve's pudding with it, you see, because it's an apple puree at the bottom. So that is a couple of cooking apples which have been peeled, cored, sliced, a little bit of sugar, a slice of lemon again. I always put a little bit of strip of lemon in there. And that was just cooked. Maybe a little knob of butter if you want to as well, if you're feeling a little luxurious, sir. And then I'm also, because I'm going to do it slightly different, I'm also going to put some dessert apple in as well, because dessert apple stays, retains its shape, whereas cooking apples go mushy, so we just have a little bit of extra texture. But I've done the grated zest of half of one of these enormous Sicilian lemons. Okay, these are these lovely, I just smell it all the time. Oh, reminds me of summer and Italy and lovely things. Anyway, they're big. So basically you would use the grated zest of 1 lemon, but I've just done half a huge lemon, a whopper, okay? That's going to go into there in a second to make my sponge, but I'm just going to cut dessert apple and I'm just going to slice it and just poke it inside the apple puree, okay? Actually, do you know what? I'm going to leave the skin on as well. Let's give it a bit of colour, because they're pretty skins, aren't they? So if we have that in as well, it just gives another little added colour to the dish. You like an apple pudding, sir?
I do like an apple pudding.
It's lucky, isn't it?
But I thought I wasn't going to get this. I thought you were going to take it to Daisy.
Well, I am actually going to take it to Daisy and drop it at her front door. But I thought maybe you could have a spoonful of it first, with a bit of custard.
Well, if I'm allowed.
Yeah, you're allowed a spoonful. Bit of custard. Now, when my little Stanley grows up, he's going to have a lot of cake. I want to be known as Nana Cake, so I'm just going to make cake. And I'm going to fill him full of sugar. This is my grandson, unless anybody hasn't seen before. I'm going to fill Stanley with lots of cakes of sugar and send him home. That is a grandmother's prerogative, is it not?
Did your mother do that with Daisy?
Yes, she did, and then she got told off. Because Daisy would come back and I'd say, supper. She would, I'm full of the cake. My mother was a brilliant cake maker as well, and she was a great cook actually, my mum. She's really good. She made fab food. So this is just sort of poked down, okay, into the rest of the apple puree. They're quite sweet. Dessert apples. And that puree is just right. So that puree's got a bit of a tang, because if I made it too sweet and then put a sweet sponge on top, the whole thing would be too sweet. So actually, be careful with the amount of sugar that you put in that apple puree. That's just right, and it also allows the apple to really be appley. Okay, doesn't cover it with the sugar. So in here is 75 grams of butter, softened, 75 grams of golden caster sugar, and then I'm going to put the zest of the lemon in that as well. Okay. As I said, this is such a simple pudding. It's a nursery pudding, okay? There's nothing fancy pants about this. It's just good, wholesome pudding that you can throw together really, really quickly for a lunch. You know, if you've got Sunday lunch tomorrow, people coming around. It's this Saturday. Oh, no, you won't have people coming. What am I talking about? We're in a pandemic, in a lockdown. I forget. Well, you're not going to have people around, so do it for your own family. But just for yourself, even if you live on your own. Why not make an Eve's pudding? It doesn't matter. So 2 eggs going in, okay? De œuf.
Multilingual Lottie.
Yeah, multilingual. Yes, 2 eggs going in. As I said, it is a nursery pudding, isn't it? I mean, it's the sort of thing that just fills you with joy from your childhood, something like this. I do another version of it in my book, actually, and I think I've done a video of it. It's a squidgy pudding, so it uses autumn fruits, an apple, and then you cover it in an almond sponge on top, which is really lovely too, with a bit of golden syrup in it. So just beat the eggs into that mixture, a lovely lemony mixture, and then I'm just going to put about was it 75 grams, or I think it was 100 grams of self-raising flour that goes in, okay? So 100 grams of self-raising flour, 75 of the other things. And stir that in. Again, nice and easy. I know I'm not too worried about the folding thing. If I was making a cake, you fold it in a bit more gently, but because I'm just shoving it on top of the puree and getting it everywhere, it doesn't really matter too much.
Just while you're doing that, how's the saucepan coming along?
Oh.
From last night?
Oops. Okay, I had a rum and coke and I forgot the potatoes were on the stove. How is the pan? Is it in a good way?
Well, the potatoes are out in the garden to the birds.
The birds are eating the potatoes.
Well, they're not, so maybe they're saying something else. So.
Boiled the entire pan dry, didn't I, with the new potatoes in. I did luckily have some more new potatoes, but it was a bit silly, wasn't it? And that's the second pan I've burnt this week.
No, third.
Oh, third? Have I done a third
There's another
one?
saucepan and the frying pan.
Oh, yeah. I don't know why I'm doing it at the moment. It's a bit silly, isn't it? Okay, just a little dash of milk, okay? A little dash-a-roo, about a dessert spoon. Okay, that just gets in. Just makes the mixture a little lighter. Okay, so pour that on top of the apple puree and the apples. And then pop it into the oven until it's cooked, about 180, 25 minutes. I will again tell you, it'll be in the recipe underneath, okay? So I will tell you when it comes out, but because I'm making this from the top of my head and not from a recipe that I've written yet, I don't know. All right, so just be patient, and it'll all be lovely when it comes out. Okay. Okay, pop that in the oven. See you in a moment, it's cooked. It's done. Do you know, it surprised me how long this took to cook. I thought 25-30 minutes. That's actually about 50 minutes to an hour. It is quite deep, so it does take longer. If your sponge was over a thinner surface in a slightly flatter and shallower pan, it would take less, but this took about 50 minutes to an hour. But it'll be worth it. Look at that. Oh. It looks amazing, doesn't it? Let's just go down to get all that beautiful apple goodness at the bottom. Now, imagine this. I don't have any with me, but imagine that with a large blob of cream or ice cream or custard. Got a lovely light, really lemony sponge with that lovely fluffy apple at the bottom. It's heaven. It's so simple. Simple puddings, you see. They're lovely, aren't they? Simple English pudding. You don't need to go fancy pants. Usually, This is just as good cold as well, by the way, can I say? Because I have had it cold before. When you go into the fridge in the night and you nick a bit more. But, hot. Blob of cream. So lemony. And you know, the lemon has made that really sharp citrus kick. Has really made it, and then the fluffy apple. So lovely. So simple, so lovely. It's just perfect really for a Saturday in January, isn't it? And there's vitamin C in there as well, with the lemon and with the apple. So happy days. Do you want some, John? Because the rest is for Daisy and Chris.